In this lesson, we're starting off looking at biotechnology and genetic engineering. I'm not covering any specific syllabus stop points, just giving you an introduction. So biotechnology involves the use of living organisms and biological systems and processes for the benefit of humans. And there are a huge number of applications and areas of life that are advanced by biotechnology, whether we realize it or not. So biotechnology can create new products, it can alter existing organisms, or it can simply build on natural processes in an innovative way. Since this is Unit 4, we're often speaking about genetic manipulation when we talk biotechnology, but we need to start with a really clear understanding of what we mean when we speak about it. So genetic modification is the process where we actually alter the genome, right? We alter the DNA, be it through making changes or introducing new DNA from another species. This is different to selective breeding, okay? This is what selective breeding is. We're taking a beneficial trait from one generation and trying to keep it in the next generation. So a really great example of this is carrots. They were originally purple, but grown in Holland. So the orange variant was selected and grown to honour the king because Dutch people love orange as a colour. Wild carrots are pretty skinny and pale, and these selectively bred carrots had a thicker root, and the orange colour didn't stay in the cookware, so it was considered beneficial, so they kept it in and kept breeding these particular crops. Now, selective breeding is used in every agricultural industry and has thoroughly changed the way food that we are familiar with looks now. Now, there's some evidence to suggest that modern chickens are bigger, not because of hormones, but because they're selectively choosing bigger chickens to breed, and also that they produce more eggs. Modern corn has also changed drastically through selective breeding, as have many other crops, and domesticated dogs have been selectively bred for hundreds of years. They're the same, species, but the subspecies all have different traits because they had different uses. You know, there's herding, there's hounds, there's sporting, there's working dogs, right? So their shape and characteristics are different. Essentially, selective breeding is old school biotech. It's a really rudimental form of biotechnology, which was done solely based on the basic understanding of inheritance and mutation and variation, and to select and create crops that were beneficial. Since then, we found a substantial number of sophisticated ways to make some laws of nature change and make them work for us, essentially. Some might say we're actually exploiting biological processes for industrial and other purposes, but we can actually feed, fuel, heal, fix, and help us to understand the world around us better. So these are the kinds of industries that we are going to look at today, and we're going to talk a little bit more about them in the coming days. So an incredibly broad number of biotechnology applications occur in the medical industry, and they blow me away, right? Tools and techniques are regularly used and lend themselves to amazing fields of research, like diagnostics, like epidemiology, like therapeutics, right? It could be drug creation. It could be using targeted therapies for specific diseases. We're talking vaccine creation, which we've seen in the last 12 months. We're talking epigenetics, which many of you are investigating. We're talking determining genetic predisposition to disease as well. We can use animal models for disease progression. We can create transgenic organisms. We can sequence an entire genome now. We can use gene therapy to change how different genes are being expressed. We also need to think about biosecurity to manage disease movement between countries and areas. We have tissue therapies, we have osseointegration, we have biofabrication, which occurs quite a lot here in Brisbane. We also have surgical glues, we have biological materials like insulin being created by microorganisms as well. So there's a hell of a lot of range here. Agriculturally, we're talking things like food security, so making sure that we can actually feed our growing human population. We're talking things like lab-grown meat. We're talking things like genetically modified organisms like edible vaccines, other pharma crops, crops with increased nutrients like golden rice. We're talking crops that are pest and insect resistant, and crops and livestock that are tolerant to new growing conditions as our own climate conditions change. Environmentally, we need to find ways of undoing a lot of damage we've done in various ecosystems. So we need to manage and remove contaminants and toxins using bioremediation, and we need to consider our management and disposal of wastes and find creative solutions to minimize and the further damage that we're going to do or we've already done. Now, industrially, energy production is a huge issue which needs to be managed. We're talking making sustainable biofuels like biodiesel, bioethanol, biogasoline, biobatteries, and even vegetable oil. So we are talking about making technology and using them efficiently and effectively. So new materials also needs to be considered. We're creating things using new natural processes. For example, spider silk protein can be produced in goat's milk and can be used commercially as a really strong fibre, and it's way easier than harvesting, say, spider milk. Oh my gosh, spider webs. All right, forensically, DNA fingerprinting and sequencing can allow us to, match unique individual genetic traits to identify people in so many contexts. It doesn't have to be criminal all the time. And importantly, with biotechnology, like progress in any field, it comes with a lot of propaganda, a lot of fear, a lot of misinformation, and a real need to consider the ethical approach that we take. In this unit, we're exploring some specific tools and techniques used in biotechnology, but I really also want you to keep an eye out for current advancements and appreciate how far science has come and how far biotechnology has come. Also super important that as we study different things, we need to consider ethical dilemmas and many perspectives that can arise from the new technologies that are created. Right, so again, not covering anything specific, just a bit of an introduction.